Hello! Today we are going to be working on a drawing or a painting inspired by the book Mouse Paint. In the book, it talks about three mice that kind of get into some trouble with paint and they learn about different colors. So we are going just to focus on color theory, just learning about different sets of colors. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw the mice. Now, I have my sketchbook here. I have it side to side or horizontal. You could also have it vertical. It's completely up to you. It's just easier for me to do it side to side. The first thing that we're going to do is draw the mice. And we're going to start off by drawing a U shape. And then we're going to be drawing a V on the top. And then I'm going to draw another U shape, and you can have your mice going in different directions. I'm going to turn my paper just so it's easier to draw. Draw another U. Draw my V upside down, and then draw another one. I think this one's going to go the other way. So draw another U. You just want to make sure your U isn't too small. And draw another V. Now we have our mice. The next thing we're going to do is add some details to our mice. Our mice need some ears. So on the top of their head, we're going to do two C shapes. So C, C. And then we're also going to add in a nose. So at the end, you're going to kind of round it off. You can add some whiskers. And then you can also add a tail. So with your tail, it's going to be kind of like an S shape. And then we're going to create another line to go along with it. Our mice are also missing some eyes. So we're going to draw two eyes, so circles. And we have one mouse. So now we're going to do that to the rest of them. So we'll go to this one. We're going to draw two C's. You have to turn your paper, that's fine, you can do that. I'm going to draw his nose, his eyes, his tail. And remember, make a double line, so you're going to go back, kind of make it a little thicker, and whiskers. You could also add another C inside of your ear, like the pinks of his ear. Then I have one more. So C's with another C. The nose, the eyes, whiskers, and then a tail. The next thing I'm going to draw is the paint that the mice play in. So I'm going to do 3 puddles of paint. And when I do that, I want to make sure that they're not too small. And puddles are kind of an odd shape. So instead of like a circle, we're going to kind of do a kind of a blobby shape. So it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to do a blob over here. It's kind of like a bumpy blob. So we're going to do one between these two. We're going to do another one between these two mice. All right, and then we're going to do another one between these two. So we should have 3 blobs. Next, we're going to outline. I have a big marker, but if you want to use a smaller one, that's fine. If you don't have a marker, you could always use a black crayon or a black color pencil. Just try to stay on your line. If you mess up, it's okay. You could always go back and erase. And just make sure you outline everything from all your details of your mouse. And then after I outline my mice, I'm going to outline my paint blobs. There you go. So for this next step, you can either use watercolor or you can use crayons or markers. I'm going to do watercolor, but I will also have an example in crayon. So I'm going to be using a brush and some water, and I have my watercolor right here. In the story, the mice first step into 3 colors, which are red, blue, and yellow. Red, blue, and yellow are primary colors, meaning that they cannot be made. So I can't take anything and make red, blue, and yellow. So I can't take green and purple and make yellow. I can only already have those colors or purchase those colors. So the mice are going to be red, blue, and yellow. Now if you want to do their nose and their eyes different, that's fine. But for right now, let's just focus on the bodies of the mice. So I'm going to dip my brush into the water. And I'm going to do red first. So when I'm using the paint, if you have paint, just make sure you make a little pool of water. I'm going to go to the first one, and I'm going to paint him red. I just want to use red for the whole mouse. Now, you may notice with watercolor that it's not super bright and it's kind of see-through. That's what it needs to be. If it's too thick or sticky, then you're not putting enough water in the paint. You can always go back and add more paint when it dries, but if you put too much paint on your brush, it becomes sticky, and it's not really good for the brush, and it's not good for the paint. So I'm going to paint his ears. I'm going to leave his middle of his ears open so I can color that with a crayon. I'm going to go around his eyes. And I'm going to leave his nose. So my first one is red. Now, like I said, if I want to go back and add more paint, I can and make it more red. Okay, so I'm going to wash my brush off and get some more water on it. And the next color I'm going to do is yellow. Now my yellow has a little green in it, but it should be okay. Sometimes that happens. So yellow. All right, so the next one is going to be blue. So the very last mouse is going to be blue. And when I'm painting, I'm just trying to stay in my lines. That's why I like those big outline lines. It's a lot easier to stay in my lines because I can see them better. Now remember, if you don't have paint, you do not have to use paint. You can use markers or colored pencils or crayon. So there are my 3 mice, red, yellow, and blue. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to color in my blobs. Now, when I'm coloring in my blobs, or painting in my blobs in this case, I'm actually going to do it the more difficult way. But before we color them in, let's label them. So we have red, yellow, and blue. So what is red plus blue? Red plus blue is purple or violet. So I'm going to write purple very lightly. Red plus yellow is what? Red and yellow make orange. Yellow plus blue is green. So what we have kind of created here is a color wheel. Artists use color wheels to help navigate a mood or a feeling, or just to understand how colors relate to each other. So what we're going to do next is to color in our blobs the right color. So the first one is going to be, I'm going to do orange. Orange on my brush. Now again, if you do not have paint, you won't have to use paint. You can use crayon, marker, or colored pencil. Now one thing we could do, our orange that is closer to red right here, I'm going to add a little bit of red too, because he's got his tail in there, just a little bit. And if I mix orange and red together, just a little bit, you're going to end up with a red-orange. Now you can do this with a crayon or a colored pencil. So I have a little red in there. So the one that's closer to yellow, I'm going to take a little yellow and add a little bit of yellow to my orange. And I will end up with a yellow-orange. So let's move on to purple. So I'm going to do purple. Color it in, or paint it in all purple. So we have purple. So the next part is red is a little bit near purple, so we're gonna add just a little bit of red. And we end up making, on top of the purple, red violet, so like a pinky purple. Although blue is way over here, we're gonna add a little bit of blue to the top part of our blob. Just gotta be careful, blue is very powerful. So when we do that, we end up with a blue violet. Okay, so we have our violet. Now the last color we need to put in is green. Then I'm going to add in a little bit of yellow on this side. And that's going to create yellow-green. And then on the other side is blue. So just be careful with blue if you're using watercolor. Very powerful. So then we have blue-green. So now we have created a full color wheel. It just keeps going round and round. We're gonna let this dry for a second, and then I'm gonna be able to come back and finish coloring in the details in the background. Now to finish off my painting, I'm going to finish painting the background brown, but if I was coloring, you could do a color. I'm just kind of pretending that the mice are on a table or a floor. I do want you to color everything. It's good practice because everything that you draw is part of something. So it's not just a sketch. It's like more like it's part of its own universe. So when you draw in your background or even add like a floor or a table, it kind of makes it more real. Now again, if you don't have paint, you don't have to paint. But I know some of you expressed interest in painting, and I'm just using watercolors, making sure I have lots of water in my paint. All right. So now that I'm done painting my background, I'm going to let that dry, and as that dries, I'm going to color in my parts of my mouse. So I'm going to use a marker. So I'm going to color in the eyes. I'm going to leave a little white spot in my eyes. Maybe not. I think I like them. Just dark eyes for my mouse. But if you want to add like a pupil, you could do that. Then I'm going to add pink for the nose. Pink little nose. And then pink for the ears. Now you don't have to use marker, you could use crayon. And as this dries, I'm going to add one more thing to the background, and then I'll be done. So I'm going to get a brown marker for my background. Drawing. And I'm just going to add in some lines for the floor. So my lines are for the wood floor. Now if you want to add these in, you could. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I just like adding just a little more detail. They're just lines, kind of squiggly. If you've ever seen some wood floor, it's got grains in it. That's what they call it, grains. Kind of like the blobby kind of lines that I just did. All right, and we're all done. So this is mouse paint. Now, if you're wondering, hey, this doesn't look like mouse paint, this is very similar. I still have created a circle, and now I'm coloring in the fish with the primaries, red, blue, and then yellow, and then adding the colors in between. Do you think you can come up with a different way to create the color wheel? Use different animals. Try it out.